All right, let's get into questions. And I've been copying and pasting them as we've gone on. We have now. You love first half bets, and you make them, you know, enormously. We have a question. This came from early in the show from JA. The first question he has, and let me pull up the line here. The first question is a first half in the Florida State UNC Greensboro game. Florida State.
I can answer that real quick, Jim.
Do it. Take it away.
We're on Greensboro first half.
You are. God, of course you are. You're on Greensboro first half +6. Of course. I don't know why I didn't connect that. There you go. So Jay says thoughts on Florida State first half. Max is on UNC Greensboro first half. The next question he has is Texas Tech first half. And the Texas Tech first half line is opened up at -2.5. It's now at -2 against Utah State. What do you think of Texas Tech early? Because I know you have them full game.
Yeah, I think that with Texas Tech, it's going to be it's going to be interesting to see how they match up against Cada. If they're able to nullify his post passing and he isn't really able to get his shooters freed up for good looks at the bucket, well, I think that Texas Tech will get out to the lead. I think that with a lot of favorites, you do want to be backing them more so in first halves. And I think that with all this, I guess, well-wishing, I would say, for the Utah State, I just don't think that they're a good matchup for Texas Tech. They don't have the perimeter scoring. And if you need a game breaker, I like the game breaker better on the Red Raiders side. And this is where coaching plays a big factor. I definitely have a lot of respect for Coach Craig Smith, but I definitely think that Chris Beard brings a different level, and this is why he gets paid the big bucks, is to win games in March. So I definitely like Texas Tech first half, and I still like them full game.
Here we go. Next question comes from Prince of the City. Says, do the Razorbacks run over Colgate? Arkansas, Colgate. This game goes off at. Why can't I find it here in my odds page? This is a early Friday game. This game pops off in 11 hours. Colgate, Arkansas. Arkansas is 4.5 first half, and let's see what they are full game. They are open up at 9.5. Now they're at 8.5. And the question from Prince of the City: does Arkansas run over Colgate?
Listen, I think that when you look at Colgate, you're going to need a 25-point game from Jordan Burns. When you look at Colgate, you're going to need them to hit shots early. And then how do you really judge how the matchup at the 4 and 5 spot are going to freaking play out? When you look at Arkansas, they can go big, they can go small. And when they go small, they put Moses Moody and Justin Smith at the 4 and 5. Facing up against Woodward and Keegan Records is going to be a major disadvantage for Colgate. If they're able to clear out enough space, they could be eating at the free throw line often. I think that Arkansas brings the defense, though. So I said earlier on the show that we did before that I like the under at 162. Obviously, that number's not there anymore, but something about this game makes me think that maybe Colgate shoots well early, but I don't know if they can maintain that offensive accuracy that we've seen against Patriot League competition for 40 minutes against this Arkansas defense.
Wild. We keep going with the questions from the chat. Miles Johnson says, Max, do you have any interest at all in Abilene Christian?
No, not really. I only like the first half over in that game. I think that with Abilene, they have such an undersized backcourt, and with Texas's ability to go one-on-one and have the size advantage, I just think that you got to get a bad fucking start from Texas in order for Abilene to be in that game. Like, don't get me wrong, the Southland has produced some pretty big upsets of major conference teams. I just don't think that this is one of those instances.
We have a ton of people asking about the first game on the docket. It comes up in 10 and a half hours. And number 25 ranked Virginia Tech, Florida. And excuse me, number 25 Virginia Tech, Florida. Ton of people asking questions about it. Max, we're almost at game time. The total opened up at 137.5. It's now 135. Florida opened up as 1-point favorites, and now it's the Pick'em or VTech.
Yeah, I'm on Virginia Tech first half. That's the play that I was interested in. While I do think that defensively and up front, Florida's going to have major problems handling Keve Aluma and Justin Mutz, it still hurts not to have Jalen Cone in the lineup for Vodtech, and putting your reliance on Hunter Couture to come in and give you that three-point shooting that you're going to miss is definitely a question mark. I do think that there's going to be a much better defensive coverage job done on Terrence Mann. And I just think that while he's looked good as of late, I just don't think that it's going to carry on against Vodtech's perimeter defense. Listen, if Vodtech doesn't shoot the basketball well early, then they're going to be falling behind. They may not be able to mount a comeback. But by my numbers, I liked Virginia Tech much better on the first half than I did full game. So that's what we did.
I get it. I absolutely get it. The next question I have coming here, let me just make sure I have the market move on it. I want to be able to nail down this market move. So let's move to my man Will's question. Says, Max, what about Rutgers under full game? Clemson slows them down.
Yeah, the problem with that is that I like Clemson unders only on their home floor. I'm not really a big fan of them on neutrals or on the road. That's when you see the defense be a little more leaky and you see the three-point shooting be a little more prominent. Obviously, with guys like frickin' Alex Hemaway, with Nick Honor, Alamir Dawes, Hunter Tyson, you should be able to get a good amount of scoring out of them. And with Amir Sims and his developed three-point shot this year, I think that Clemson's going to have to score. I think that if they get into a rock fight with this Rutgers team, it could come down to a last-second shot by Ron Harper Jr. We've already seen a couple games with those. I don't want to be on the wrong end of that. I think that Clemson wins the game, but I think that Clemson definitely has to score and cannot turn this into a slow rock fight, low possession type style tempo.
Okay, we've got a ton of work to do, and we have to wake up early. So get your questions in. We're not going to be here for too much longer. Next up, Alvin Smith, and get your questions in. Fire them in. We have Max ready to rock right now. He's drinking apple juice and water. No caffeine in that shit. Alvin Smith says, what do you think about Tennessee, Oregon State? And I can't wait to hear this answer. I know the move you made. And I'll just, remind everybody, Max is on Oregon State. I followed him. I tailed him on it. +8. Take it away here, Tennessee, Oregon State.
Yeah, listen, with Oregon State, they bring a ton of size. I think that when you look at that size, that's what you need against this Tennessee team to compete. Tennessee's uber physical. They are a little more questionable when it comes to scoring consistently. And if you're able to really stop them from doing anything, what I would call freedom of movement, then you're really setting yourself up nicely. I think that you're definitely going to have to make some shots early against this Tennessee team and find your ways to score against their defense. You do not want to repeat what happened in the Colorado game when that team went up against this Vols. And of course, listen, with Yves Pons, this is a guy that is able to guard bigger front court players. He's able to hit that top of the circle three. He's an energizer booster. And listen, he's going to be on the floor because if John Fulkerson isn't in the lineup, you take away their best scoring post player. I think that Pons is definitely going to be able to fill some of that void, but there will be a void left. And I think that's going to be enough for Oregon State to backdoor this game. I'm not going to give them the credit that a lot of people have when it comes to outright upsetting them. I definitely think that with Tennessee's inconsistent offensive production, it's very possible for something like that to happen. But I took the safe route and decided to just go with the points.
Yes, and I've done the same, but in at least one of my brackets, I've got them running. Or not running, but winning the first match. Okay, our man Rodney Hawkins. So he's looking for an early parlay. So he likes Arkansas -8.5. And he wants to know what you think of tying Arkansas with Illinois. He says nobody talking about Illinois. They can cover that 23. What do you think of his early parlay Arkansas Illinois?
Yeah, I think that I'm not really interested in parlaying a 23-point spread, but I will say that listen, Illinois has all the ability to dominate that game. It's going to be do they stop that ball pressure, that pick and roll that Drexel's going to run? I don't think that James Butler and TJ Bickerstaff are going to be able to contain or do anything against Coburn. And I think that the dribble penetration and the pick and roll of Io, is going to be too much. I don't like the number, but I would have to look at Illinois because, listen, all eyes are on them. They don't want to give the indication that they are blood in the water. So
we got some great questions coming in that set up Max just to go off. So I'll go with this question just to get him started. Max, Anthony Cerro says, sorry for a look ahead spot, but what's your opinion on a potential Michigan LSU matchup?
It's not going to happen. So you can keep on dreaming about it. It's not going to happen. It's called St Bonaventure's versus Michigan. So come correct with the right matchup.
Jason Byer says, am I setting myself up for failure with the UConn St. Bonnie parlay?
I'm never going to tell you to parlay. I think that the smarter way is always to bet things single, individual, same freaking bet amount, minimize the vig. But if you're gonna bet a parlay, yeah, parlay my Bonnies in UConn. Can't go wrong.
Okay, the questions come in because we're not going to be here for too much longer. Spenny Penny Bombs, and I know the answer here because the Cupcake play of the day is Oregon first half. And what an asshole I am! I only moved on them full game. But Spenny Penny Bomb says, does VCU give Oregon a game, or does Oregon just clean up?
Listen, I think that VCU is definitely someone that you are not going to just walk over. They've earned this freaking trip to this tournament. I think that there was definitely low expectations. They were able to rise with Vince Williams and Ace Baldwin, and then the development of Hassan Ward up front. They could definitely give some problems early, but at the end of the day, I just don't think that they got the will and they got the 40-minute strength to be able to finish the deal. So I got to look at Oregon in this spot. I think that when you look at Chris Duarte, his ability to handle the ball, run this offense at 6'6", with Eugene Amori, there's just a bunch of bullies that can just bully their way to the bucket. I don't even mention LJ Figueroa from St. John's. I don't even mention freaking the ability that you get with Eric Williams, the former Duquesne transfer. So it's like, you really got to pick your poison. While this team definitely isn't the group that Peyton Pritchard led to, what was it, the Elite Eight or something 2 years ago, this is still a Dana Altman coach team. And this is March basketball. That's when Dana Altman brings his best, and I expect him to bring his best.
Next up, Max, Ryan Alverson says, I'm having trouble, and I love this question. I know what I've decided to do, but I want to hear it from Max. I'm having trouble picking between Arkansas and Ohio State. They're the 2 and the 3 in that bracket. Any advice?
Yeah, I think that you have to go with Ohio State there. I think that with Dwayne Washington, he's really come alive. I think that when you look at this front court, even if they don't have Kyle Young, they still are able to get shit done, and they can defend bigger freaking front court players. I think that Chris Holtman's definitely an underrated coach, and I think that this is where, in a matchup, a high profile versus a very good in-game adjustment coach like Coach Musselman, that's where Ohio State comes out and plays it hard. So,
Max, RMK, whom we love dearly, OG Lowbacker, says, and I'm going to speak for a few seconds after I ask the question. He says, opinion on potential look-ahead spot with Illinois and Houston. And Max, on one of my brackets, and I only have two, one of my brackets, and maybe both, and I'll finalize this night, I have San Diego State moving on that side of things. So I'm not sold on this Illinois-Houston matchup. Can you touch on Houston, San Diego State on the one side of things, and who you think might meet up with Illinois?
Listen, the problem with Houston is if they're playing this NBA style of offense, which is just a lot of free flow, a lot of freaking drives, a lot of three-point shooting, you just have to hope that they have a bad game. I don't really want to jump into what ifs because I don't have lines for what ifs. Yeah, it's definitely possible for upsets to happen. That's usually what happens in this tournament. But
if San Diego State meets Houston, where are you leaning?
I'd be leaning with Houston. Listen, San Diego State is not nearly as good as they were last year. You have to look at them versus the matchup. In a matchup versus Syracuse, they have a lot of advantages. In a matchup versus Houston, they don't. In a matchup versus Illinois, they don't.
What did you think of the way they shut down Utah State? I mean, again, it's just matchups.
It's Utah State. That's the thing that we have to be able to distinguish. Different quality of competition and in competition at different levels. Mountain West is here, and then the American Athletic may be up here, you know. I don't think that Utah State is going to start winning freaking arguments for me. There's a ton of holes on that team. I just think that we're giving way too much credit to this Mountain West Conference this year. I don't think it's that good.
Just a couple more questions, Max, before we put a bow on this. And let's do that. Let's put a bow on this by 2 a.m. We have a huge week ahead of us, and we need more study after we get off the air, and then we need some rest at some point. We have a question here, Max, and let's go with this. Let's go to this question here. It's a tricky one. It's from Robert Allen, whom we love. He says, I got a question, Max. What is the strongest long shot team in your eyes? 5 seed or lower? And Max, if you're able to go more than one region, we'd love to hear it. But if you just want one region, that's cool.
I don't really know how to answer that question, to be quite frank with you. I really think that when you look at some of these possible Cinderellas, the more that I think about it and look at the numbers, they're not really that impressive. The team that impresses me probably the most is a team that I'm a little biased against, and that's Liberty. So a team like freaking North Carolina really impresses me with how they've turned around, but they're not really – they wouldn't be really classified – well, at least North Carolina would be a Cinderella. I don't think that North Texas or Morehead State or even Winthrop have what it takes to make a serious run. I think that while we want a lot of these mid-majors to upset some of these Power Fives, I just don't know if they can get past the first weekend. So,
Max, if North Carolina, I like North Carolina to beat Wisconsin. Do you as well?
Yeah.
If North Carolina meets Baylor, we have this huge front court against these 3 guards that do all the scoring. Can you talk to me about how you see that game breaking down?
It's definitely more than 3 guards, than those 3 guards scoring. With Adam Flagler, Matthew Mader, Mark Vitale, you got definitely guys that can give you other areas of scoring, but Baylor is very reliant. They've abandoned some of this middle 1-1-3. So driving to the bucket and getting a clear look at the bucket is definitely more available than it was earlier in the season. And against a team like North Carolina, who definitely needs to freaking get to the rim a lot more without having to tip it off the glass a bunch of times. That could play into their advantage. And then the fact that when you look at that North Carolina backcourt, well, there's nothing really impressive about them. And when a team isn't impressive, at least in a certain area, that makes them more dangerous, especially in March, especially going up against a team that they're being counted out to lose before they even play the game. So,
God, Max, I could sit here with you for the rest of the night easily, and I know we need rest, so we're going to be here for just a few more minutes. At 7:15 on Saturday night, the winners of the MAC, Ohio, play Virginia, 15th ranked team in the country. Ohio opened as 10-point dogs, and money came flying on them. They're now down to 7.5. Do you think Ohio can get past? Is there a chance Ohio can get past Virginia?
I don't think that they're winning the game, Jim, but I definitely think that it'll be close. I think that at the end of the day, Ohio has their best advantage early in the first half, and that's what we did. That's what we took. And when it comes down to it, you give time for Tony Bennett to adjust after he's watched and coached against you. That's a dangerous proposition. And this team and program does not want to have another first-round exit. They're already in the history books. They don't want to add on to that freaking fighter. So I think that is definitely going to be dangerous in the first half for them. I think that them being able to at least get a little bit of exercise, get outside, maybe they're not going to be fucked up like that, but I did not have Virginia anywhere close to 10 points on my line. So with Jason Preston and Mark Sears, their ability to run the point, their ability to play together on the floor at the same time, it's a bad matchup for Kihei Clark and Reese Beekman. When you look at Trey Murphy and Sam Hauser, yeah, those are the guys that got to be the catalysts that take you through this game. But it's going to be tough if you're not making shots.
Okay, Max, I'm going to be selfish here for the last 2 minutes of the show. There's some things I want to know for my work here in the next, before I go to sleep.
All right.
Talk to me about this East bracket spot with Colorado and Georgetown. I so badly want to back Georgetown, and am I just falling prey for a recency bias because of their run and how bad they smacked Creighton in the mouth?
Ordinarily, Jim, with this time at this time of year, I'd be like, well, recent form matters. That's how you get on a run. If we're talking non-conference or early conference season, I'm like, yeah, throw that out the window. I think that when you look at this Georgetown team, what have they done? They are playing the quality of defense. They are scoring in transition. Their three-point shot has been hot as hell. Can they maintain it? I think so. I think that they have the fundamental pieces to balance it out, keep a defense on their heels. And with Colorado, I always go back to that conference versus conference competition. And every time Colorado takes a step up to play a team in the right region of the time zones of college basketball, they don't do very well. I think that this Georgetown team brings enough size that they can expose the lack of rim protection that this Colorado team has. And with their trio of very good on-ball defending guards, whether it be Dante Harris, whether it be Donald Carrier, whether it be Toronto's Javon Blair, that's what you need to stop McKinley Wright. If McKinley Wright doesn't score 18 points in this game or more, you're winning this game outright. This is a dangerous underdog to win a game. So,
if in the round of 32 it's San Diego State, West Virginia, where do you lean?
I would lean with West Virginia.
God, Max, I want to take Oklahoma State to the bank. I want to take them all the way to play Gonzaga in the final. Is that nuts?
It's not nuts, but I don't like it because that means that they got to beat Liberty, and I love Liberty. I think that with Oklahoma State, getting into the tournament, I think that they have that new motivation. They played with the motivation of having to earn getting into this tournament to be allowed to participate. So seeing that number go down to 7 definitely was weird. Obviously, I had the game lined at 11.5, but I just think that Oklahoma State, while they definitely have the matchup that they can get there, I think that the path is good.
Path is good, yeah.
You got to just see them put it to work against a program that they don't have familiarity with. Another thing with tournament basketball is that when you see these teams playing their conference schedule, these are coaching staffs that know each other. These are players that know each other. Oklahoma State and Liberty, they don't know shit about each other, And that's with a lot of matchups in these tournaments. Something definitely to keep in mind.
Max, Texas Tech, Arkansas, round of 32.
Arkansas.
Purdue, Winthrop.
Yeah, I don't like that particular matchup for Texas Tech. I think that's when they become a little too reliant on Mac McClung, and that's when Arkansas's depth and multiple scoring pieces can beat you. Moses Moody doesn't have to lead the team in scoring. They still have Jalen Tate, so they still have Devontae Davis also.
Max, Purdue, Winthrop, round 2.
Yeah, I don't think you're seeing it. I know that we want to freaking love Winthrop. I think Winthrop's going to be competitive for 20 minutes. I think it's early. I think that if you give Jay Wright an opportunity to adjust at halftime, like we've seen, they're a dangerous second-half team. The problem is, without Colin Gillespie, this offense just doesn't run as smoothly as it usually does. You're going to put a lot of pressure on that 4-out, 1-in offense. Jeremiah Robinson-Earl is going to have to be able to face up and score the basketball at a high rate. If you get 25 or more points from him, yeah, then maybe we see Winthrop pull the outright upset. But the points are definitely the safer way to go.
Oregon, Iowa, round of 32.
Guys, you don't have to ask me a question about Iowa. I don't like Iowa. I hope they lose to Grand Canyon. Okay? And they take that fucking subpar coach's head of hair with them.